There's a version of you that shows up whenever someone needs something. Cover a shift, sure, help move an apartment on your one day off. Of course, listen to a friend vent for the third time this week while your own problems sit untouched in the back of your mind. No problem, you've built a reputation, people call you easy, low maintenance, always up for whatever, and on the surface, that sounds like a compliment. But here's the question almost nobody asks. What did it cost you to become that person? Let us rewind. Somewhere along the way, maybe in a house where love felt like something you had to earn. Maybe in a friend group where being too much got you left out. Maybe in a classroom where the quiet, agreeable kid got praised and the one who pushed back got punished. You learned a rule. Not in words, in experience. The rule was this: wanting things is risky. Needing things is risky, but being easy. Being the one who never causes friction, that's safe. Think about how early this starts. A child asks for something and gets told they're being difficult. A child cries and gets told to stop, to calm down, to think about how it's affecting everyone else in the room. Nobody sits that child down and says your needs are a burden. Nobody has to. The lesson arrives through 1,000 small moments, a sigh, a tightened jaw, a we'll talk about it later that never comes. And the child's nervous system, brilliant and adaptive, draws its own conclusion. It is safer to want nothing than to want something and be denied, or worse, resented for asking. So you got good at it. You got so good that easy stopped feeling like a strategy and started feeling like who you are. Think about what that actually requires, every single day. Someone asks a favor, and before you even register your own feelings about it, you've already scanned the room. Will they be upset if I say no? Will they think less of me? Will I lose something if I disappoint them? By the time you answer, you've already agreed, not because you wanted to, but because saying no felt more dangerous than saying yes. Psychologists have a name for this pattern. It is a form of fawning, a survival response built on one core belief, that your value depends on how useful, agreeable, and undemanding you can be to the people around you. Unlike fight or flight, fawning doesn't look like a stress response from the outside. It looks like generosity. It looks like maturity. It gets rewarded constantly, which is exactly what makes it so hard to unlearn. The world keeps applauding the very thing that is quietly hollowing you out. Here's an example. A man, let us call him Dan, spends 15 years as the guy everyone can count on. Coworkers dump extra projects on his desk because he never pushes back. Friends call him at midnight because they know he'll pick up. His family assumes he is fine because he has never once said he wasn't. Dan doesn't think of himself as unhappy, he thinks of himself as reliable, useful, a good person, and in a way, he is. But underneath that identity is a quieter truth he has never said out loud, even to himself. He has no idea what he actually wants, because he has spent decades organizing his life around what everyone else wants instead. Then one day, Dan sits in his car in an empty parking lot after work and realizes he can't remember the last time he did something simply because he wanted to. Every choice, for as long as he can remember, has been a calculation about what other people needed from him. Even his hobbies, if you looked closely, were chosen because someone else enjoyed them too. That's the twist most people don't see coming. Being easy isn't actually about generosity. It is about fear, dressed up as kindness. Every yes you give out of obligation is a transaction. I will set myself aside so you stay pleased with me. And the currency you raise spending, quietly, every single day, is your own identity. The people who benefit from your easiness rarely notice the cost, because they were never meant to see it. That is the nature of the pattern. It is designed to be invisible, even to you. Your friends aren't villains for calling at midnight. Your co-workers aren't monsters for handing you extra work. They're simply responding to what you've taught them is available. And that is not an accusation. It is actually the most hopeful part of this entire pattern, because it means the dynamic isn't fixed. It was built, which means it can be rebuilt. So what changes this? It starts with a strange, uncomfortable practice, pausing before you answer, not performing hesitation, actually feeling what is underneath the automatic yes. Do I want to do this, or am I afraid of what happens if I don't? This pause is small, but it is radical, because it is the first moment in a long time where your own answer gets to exist before someone else's need does. The first few times, it will feel unnatural, even wrong, like you're doing something selfish or rude. That discomfort isn't a sign you're doing it wrong, it is a sign the old pattern is loosening, and patterns don't let go quietly. Sometimes you'll still say yes. That is fine. Connection requires some yielding, and generosity that comes from genuine choice is not the problem here. The problem was never helping people, the problem was doing it automatically, without ever checking whether you actually wanted to. When yes becomes the only word you know how to say, you ray not being generous anymore. You ray disappearing. You were not put on this earth to be the most convenient person in every room. You were allowed, all along, to want things, to need things. To take up space without earning it first, without softening it into an apology, without waiting for permission that was never going to come from anyone but you. Being easy was never the goal, being real was.